You stand in an area and wonder how all the details will come together, but they always do. It's really a Herculean effort to bring everything to life. For a lot of people in New Jersey, I think that's been their first big roller coaster. It's kind of a big deal. It's a work of art. It's a fantastic ride. I would just love to make them think about how they're affecting families. Over the past 34 years, Rolling Thunder had left a mark on the fans of Great Adventure. It had been around for so long. Parents were able to make fond memories of it as kids, and once they grew up, they were able to make new memories with a new generation of riders. But Great Adventure fans would not be left empty-handed. This was being done to pave the way for the big new addition for the park's 40th anniversary. Already having the world's tallest coaster on site, Six Flags contracted Intamin to use the tower and tack on a record-breaking new ride. Zumanjaro Drop of Doom took riders up 415 feet in open-air cars and let them freefall all the way down, hitting speeds at 90 miles an hour. It would be the world's tallest drop tower, beating Magic Mountain's Lex Luthor Drop of Doom that opened in 2012 and was built on the side of their 400-foot coaster, Superman Escape from Krypton. The ride would take up no new space, but there was no way to get from the rest of the park all the way to the King Ka Tower. There would have to be a new footpath built for Zumanjaro's queue, and although that path was the official reason for Rolling Thunder's closure, many people thought it was the latest casualty of the Six Flags axe, trying to get rid of old and less popular attractions. With a lot of the infrastructure already in place, that gave construction crews a head start to have this ready for the spring of 2014. However, because of high winds, snow, and cold weather, it took much longer to complete the 415-foot peak. The 175 workers in the project suffered hand-numbing, lip-chapping conditions that a sailor on a masthead or a Himalayan mountain climber could appreciate. The crane reached a height of 500 feet and had to stop working if wind speeds topped 35 miles an hour, wanting to make sure the crane wouldn't tip over. They were finally able to top it off on April 1st, and from there had to install the lift mechanism, controls, electrical work, and everything else to get the ride ready for guests. Its original Memorial Day target was moved back a full month, and by late June, it was ready to go, pending state approval. That also proved to be a challenge. Just hours before the big press preview in early July, they had to cancel the whole event, not receiving their operating permit. Finally, on the 4th of July, the permit came down around 12 o'clock, and 30 minutes later, Zumanjaro was open to the public. In that first week, they would allow pass holders to ride in the morning and open it up for everyone else at noon. As for the reception, park spokeswoman Kristen Siebeneicher said, the response was either very positive, or they were still in a state of shock. It would take 30 seconds to go from the ground level to the 415-foot peak, and on a clear day, you can see Philadelphia's skyline 52 miles away. Great Adventure was riding high following this world-class addition, and a USA Today poll ranked it as the second best park in the country, only Magic Mountain finishing higher. They would keep pushing forward into 2015, announcing a brand new ride for the Golden Kingdom called Looping Dragon, a looping ride built by Larson International out of Plainview, Texas. 20 riders would sit face to face as the train rocks back and forth, eventually completing 360-degree circuits. The park claimed it as their brand new roller coaster, but others disagreed. Per ACE member Brett Ulosas, it's important for a park to have a variety of rides, not just coasters. This cuts down on lines and allows folks that may not ride large coasters a chance to ride. By the start of 2015, the Looping Dragon name was set aside, and it would now be known as El Diablo, inspired by the local legend of the Jersey Devil. Also, its original site in the Golden Kingdom was scrapped, and it would now be next to El Toro in Plaza de Carnaval. El Diablo was the next chapter in Six Flags' post-bankruptcy playbook, no longer investing in the most expensive cutting-edge rides, but finding value and maximizing excitement for their dollar, also reusing the same ride concepts in several other parks. This was happening chain-wide, and it was working. Revenue was up 6% from 2013 to 2014, and Six Flags stock rose 10% in the first month of 2015. On that note, Batman the Ride would offer an all-new experience for the summer, turning the train backwards, a low-cost way to ignite interest in their guests. For those who don't want to be flipped upside down, they would reintroduce Holiday in the Park, extending the season from November 21st until January 3rd, featuring millions of lights, snow, and many of the rides remaining open in the frigid winter. This turned out to be a big boon for the Six Flags chain. Between the main season, Fright Fest, and the new Holiday in the Park, these parks were becoming year-round attractions. The fourth quarter usually ends up losing money, but not anymore. Six Flags posted a net income of $2.2 million, having lost $34.1 million in the fourth quarter of 2014. Six Flags stock rose 19% in 2015. Before the 2015 season kicked off, Great Adventure announced a 90-acre solar farm, hoping to make itself the largest self-power park in the country. The township approved the project right away, but it wasn't without controversy. The solar farm would require the removal of 19,000 trees, but the park tried to offset that by promising to plant 26,000 more on the property. Still, in May, 4 environmental groups filed a lawsuit to stop the project. You don't kill the earth to save the earth. To protect the site, state environmental officials even offered to buy the 90 acres of land from Great Adventure. The battle stretched on into 2016, Great Adventure agreeing to scale back and Jackson Township being on board, but the legal challenges continued into 2017, then 2018. And finally, Great Adventure agreed to clear 40 acres instead of the original 90 acres, building the rest of the solar panels over the parking lot. By June 2019, the solar farm was active and accounted for over 98% of the park's power needs. Back to the summer of 2015, El Diablo opened on May 14th, inviting the NHL's New Jersey Devils mascot to the grand opening, along with player Colin White, the ride receiving an elaborate devil statue that sat near the entrance. No two rides would be the same, as rather than being controlled by a pre-programmed sequence, the ride operator would control the direction of the train with a joystick. Coaster or not, Diablo was a very popular ride, but Great Adventure was gearing up to add their first new coaster to the park in 5 years. A brand new type of coaster was set to arrive at Great Adventure for the 2016 season. Total Mayhem would be built by S&S Worldwide, this called a free fly coaster. There was one other installation in the world, Batman the Ride at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, opening in 2015. Great Adventure getting the second, and Six Flags would go on to add 5 more over the next 3 years. It starts with a 120-foot vertical lift, the car sitting on either side of the track, and it would use gravity to flip the seats around as the car went over small hills and dove under itself. Total Mayhem seemed to be the perfect name for a coaster like this, but in January 2016, the park announced it would instead be called the Joker, using a green and purple track instead of red and orange. This would open in time for the 2016 blockbuster Suicide Squad, starring Jared Leto as the Joker and Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. To fit the overall theme, the coaster right next door, Blackbeard's Lost Treasure Train, would be renamed Harley Quinn Crazy Train. The one ride that would be missing from the 2016 season was Music Express, having last operated in 2007, shut down to save money right before the chain filed for bankruptcy. Its cars were already sent to Magic Mountain for an identical ride. Now, it was finally removed from the park. The Joker held its soft opening on May 26, and it operated for about 45 minutes before shutting down, a series of technical issues closing the ride for the day. For the few lucky ones who got to ride it, they were impressed by the chaos. It's just acrobatics paired with Olympic gymnastics 100 feet in the air. Down the pathway in Plaza de Carnaval, an unfortunate trend was starting to rear its ugly head. On August 19th, a woman was taken to the hospital after getting hit in the face with an object while riding El Toro. This was going on the same time the park was being sued for a similar incident back in 2014, a Philadelphia man getting hit in the head by a flying cell phone. This would lead to strict loose article policies on not just El Toro, but also King Ka, Joker, and other new extreme coasters in their future. Phones, keys, and other metal items had to be put in a locker before entering the queue, causing angst among guests since the lockers would not be free. The year prior, Skull Mountain used a new overlay during Holiday in the Park called Poinsettia Peak, and for Fright Fest in 2016, it would become the first VR coaster in the park's history. This was Rage of the Gargoyles, a 360-degree experience. Samsung VR headsets strapped to every rider, battling gargoyles in a show synced up to the ride's movements. For Holiday in the Park, Great Adventure took part in a Guinness World Record, as 7 parks in the Six Flags chain got 839 couples to kiss under mistletoe. Great Adventure adding 175 couples to that mix. Going into 2017, the DC theme remained strong. Following the Joker and Harley Quinn, Great Adventure would bring in Justice League Battle for Metropolis, a Sally Corp shooting dark ride. It was a multi-sensory, interactive 4D experience, having fog, fire and mist, an extensive pre-show, animatronic characters, and the ride itself tells a story while you play a game, shooting targets and trying to beat the other riders in your car. This would be ready to coincide with two DC films that year, Wonder Woman in the summer and Justice League in the fall. This would be a big change for Six Flags. Not a thrill ride, definitely not a cheap ride, something more reminiscent of Disney than Six Flags. Great Adventure was actually late to the party. This same ride was already installed at 4 Six Flags parks between 2015 and 2016, and they were one of 3 parks to get one in 2017. That summer, the VR experience would be moved off Skull Mountain and onto Zumanjaro, now called Drop of Doom VR, battling giant spiders attacking a city. Where VR on Skull Mountain made more sense as a dark indoor coaster, some were questioning why they would put VR on Zumanjaro, a ride where the view is such a major part of the experience. As the summer of 2017 came to an end, Great Adventure was honored by Amusement Today's Golden Ticket Awards, naming El Toro the world's best wooden coaster for the second time. Its neighbor, El Diablo, would be a different story. The park was being sued over an incident during its opening year, where a couple contended their daughter suffered severe and permanent injuries, saying she had to hang on for her life when her seatbelt broke. The family notified the ride operators after the incident, and after examining the seat, they shut the ride down. Diablo would only last one more season in the park, being removed at the end of 2018, moving across the border to reopen at La Ronde in 2019, now known as Chaos. The park would host their successful Holiday in the Park event once again, and they plan on setting a Guinness World Record for the world's largest snowball fight. However, that was cancelled because of, ironically, a snowstorm that shut the park down entirely. It was a snowy winter, and a bad nor'easter would even force the 2018 opening back a whole week, from March 23rd to March 30th. Great Adventure's big addition for the season would be Cyborg Cyberspin, an ABC Rides Turbolon, another DC-themed ride. It would open right next to Justice League Battle for Metropolis, and it would be very impressive looking, twisting riders around 3 different axes, rising up 70 feet in the air, spinning riders forward, backwards, and sideways at the same time. For those who sought disorientation in a different way, the first ever Food and Brew Festival would be held at the end of August. This would take place on the lake near Joker, featuring more than 40 seasonal craft beers. They would also enhance their seasonal events, starting with the Coffin Challenge during Fright Fest, where 6 randomly selected people would have to spend 30 hours in a coffin, vying for prizes like $300 in cash, 2 gold season passes, 2 Fright Fest haunted house passes, and the coffin itself, measuring 2 feet by 7 feet. 6-minute bathroom breaks would be granted every hour. Holiday in the Park would feature a brand new show, Wonder, a Cirque Spectacular, featuring acrobats and dancers. In addition to El Diablo, the 2018 season would see the removal of Autobahn, the bumper cars that had been abandoned since 2007, but Movie Town would be getting something huge in 2019.
Who else but Wonder Woman can put a spin on thrills that will leave you breathless? Coming to Six Flags Great Adventure, DC's Wonder Woman, Lasso of Truth, the world's tallest pendulum ride, spinning riders through the clouds at speeds up to 75 miles an hour and plummeting 17 stories again and again. Get ready for Wonder Woman, Lasso of Truth.
Built by Zamperla, this giant pendulum is known as a Giga Discovery. Wonder Woman Lasso of Truth would be the tallest of its kind in the world, 17 stories tall and reaching 75 miles an hour, spinning while launching riders into the air. This was a popular model in the Six Flags chain, and it would be no different at Great Adventure. For Hurricane Harbor, they would introduce Calypso Springs, the largest single investment into the park since it opened in 2000, a 100,000-gallon activity pool featuring an erupting geyser. While the main park and water park were enjoying popular new attractions, the safari was in some hot water. A report surfaced saying that Great Adventure did not have the proper permits to bring in endangered species. The permit had expired back in 2007, and since then, the park had imported 1 Siberian tiger and 8 red lekwus. The park had been referred to law enforcement by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, citing possible violations of the Endangered Species Act. During Holiday in the Park, Great Adventure would host the Polar Coaster Challenge, hosting guests willing to ride Nitro with a t-shirt and shorts on a day with a high temperature of 37 degrees. Riders would have to sign a release form and a safety waiver before taking on this challenge. During the summer of 2019, there was a lot of work being done behind Nitro in the Adventure Seaport, and it was obvious something big was coming in 2020. The park released the teaser campaign, releasing a new clue each day, and by the end of it, we were left with 6 letters. Arranged correctly, they would spell YESRMC, or Yes RMC, and the Jersey Devil was unleashed. RMC, or Rocky Mountain Construction, had built two of their single-rail Raptors in 2018, a model designed for smaller parks due to its lower capacity, seating 8 riders per train single file. Great Adventure hoped to offset this by adding 4 extra riders per train, this being the tallest, fastest, and longest of its kind. Like Diablo 4 years prior, Jersey Devil would make use of the mythological creature, even reusing the statue that used to sit outside Diablo. This was set for a summer 2020 opening, but as the calendar flipped over, the emerging coronavirus problem in China was getting worse and worse, and by mid-March, the whole country had reached the breaking point, the entire economy shutting down. No school, no sports, no amusement parks. Great Adventure suspended all operations on March 30th and announced they would open no earlier than mid-May. Searching for anything for guests to do, they reintroduced the drive-thru safari experience. This is how it worked from the time it opened in 1974 all the way until 2012, moving to an open-air safari vehicle since 2013. But as of May 30th, guests could reserve a spot online and drive their own car inside the park once again. This was free for pass holders, and tickets ran between $13 and $20 per person. In late June, the park set an official reopening date of July 3rd, but it would not be business as usual. Every guest would have to wear a mask at all times. Temperatures would be checked at the front gate. There would be empty rows in the trains to separate riders, and there would be a reservation system in place, trying to limit the amount of guests coming through the gates. Employees would engage in frequent desanitizing and cleaning high touch points, and introduce hand washing and sanitizer stations across the park. Because of construction delays, and the amount of guests allowed in the park set to 50%, before the grand reopening, the park announced that Jersey Devil would officially be delayed until 2021. On July 3rd, members and pass holders were invited to return to the park, causing a traffic backup that stretched all the way to the interchange for I-195. Hurricane Harbor would follow suit and open for the season 3 weeks later. Fright Fest would be shelved in 2020, replaced by HoloFest, a reconfigured event, keeping the current realities of public gatherings in mind. There would be no indoor mazes. Instead, they would have 3 haunted trains, 4 themed areas, and street entertainers. King & Country would put on a drive-in concert in October, and Holiday in the Park would be a drive-in event as well. Guests would be able to enjoy the millions of lights by driving through the park in their own cars, a max speed limit set at 3 miles an hour, decorating 12 areas across the park and including live entertainment. Going into 2021, the pandemic was still a major problem, but with the vaccine being rolled out, the park and the state in general hope to get tourism back to normal by summer. They kicked the season off with a drive-in laser light show each night between March 18th and 21st. They look to hire 4,000 workers for the year, and with the worker having so much power in the current economic climate, Great Adventure was offering to hire workers at $15 per hour, about a $4 per hour increase. A new event called Coaster Power Hours would roll out in the spring, opening Thursday and Friday nights in April and May, offering exclusive ride time and specialty food for $29.99, or $4.99 for season pass holders. To reduce touch points, the park would also go cashless, offering kiosks to convert cash to a card that could be used anywhere in the park, and this cashless trend turned out to be permanent as other parks followed suit. Jersey Devil Coaster held its grand opening on June 13th, part of the new Pine Barrens area of the park, replacing a portion of the Looney Tunes Seaport, some rides being removed and some finding a new spot in the park. This would include Little Devil Coaster, the relocation and retheme of their kids coaster from 1999, Roadrunner Railway. Guests were impressed by the park's first single-rail coaster. Brett Ulosas of Ace described it, as close as you're ever going to get from being on a roller coaster track. You're really just part of the ride. This would open with mandatory lockers for cell phones and keys, keeping the trend of their biggest and newest coasters. 2021 was a step in the right direction to get life back to normal, but Great Adventure was part of an industry-wide phenomenon of ride malfunctions. It started on the log flume on Jersey Devil's opening day, a boat partially tipping over, sending 2 people to the hospital. Then, Nitro had to be shut down after a rider reported a lap bar malfunction. On the Joker, a boy came back to the station with a bloody head injury, being sent to the hospital. Then, one of El Toro's trains partially derailed, the upstop wheel coming on top of the rail, completing most of the course with its wheels out of place. The ride was red tagged and subject for inspection by the state. Ken Martin, an amusement park safety analyst, said that some employees might be rusty in their duties, and rides may have been impacted after being shut down without regular use. El Toro would be closed for the rest of 2021, working on making modifications to the train and getting sign-off from the state, including a report from the manufacturer explaining what happened and why it won't happen again. By February, El Toro was clear for the upcoming season. After 1 year of HoloFest, Great Adventure brought back Fright Fest for 2021. The Holiday in the Park drive-thru experience would come back for a second year, as well as our normal Holiday in the Park event, an emphasis on events and food in the Pine Barrens area in Jersey Devil. 2022 would bring back a classic, sort of. After 10 seasons, Medusa had been repainted and rethemed as Bizarro for the 2009 season, and after 13 seasons with a Superman theme, it would return as Medusa, but this time it would have a new logo, new colors, and a new backstory that would be told in the queue. Journey back in time to the Great Frontier and experience the rise and fall of Exile Canyon. Life in this unforgiving Gold Rush era outpost was so grueling, and the conditions so insurmountable, it earned the nickname Medusa. The ride is your attempt to escape the wrath of the mythical Gorgon, Medusa. The park would also move away from the Flash Pass reservation system, moving everything to a mobile app. They would finish their renovation of Safari Kids next to Pine Barrens, now known as Junior Thrill Seekers, introduce single rider lines on Jersey Devil, El Toro, Nitro, and Medusa, and give Batman the Ride a fresh coat of paint for its 30th season. Great Adventure would also find that staffing the park was even more challenging than it was in 2021. With all the government stimulus from the last 2 years, workers had a financial cushion and the chance to weigh their job options. To attract workers, Great Adventure raised their hourly rate for some jobs to $18 an hour, $5 above minimum wage. That number getting up to $20 for ride operators. After some viral videos showed people abusing their dining pass, Six Flags' new CEO, Salim Basoul, decided to shake things up. No longer could you pay $80 for 2 meals and a snack on every visit. Now, members and pass holders could buy a meal plan for $39.99. But it could only be used 4 times. Later, the all-season dining would be reintroduced. It would just be more expensive and not include a snack. El Toro opened for the season as planned, but in August, it suffered another major setback. Witnesses heard a loud bang and saw the train jolt near the end of the ride, the train completing its course and everyone able to exit the ride without assistance. However, 13 guests were evaluated at the park for neck, back, mouth, and tongue injuries, and 5 were taken off-site for further evaluation. The ride was shut down for investigation, and about a month later, the report came in. El Toro was structurally compromised. They found multiple support columns on the ride that were damaged, and this incident was caused by a separation between the steel track and the wind support structure, creating a pothole that jolted riders when they passed over it. El Toro would again be closed for the rest of 2022, but the park worked to fix the problems and had it reopened 10 months later. However, Parachuter's Perch would not join the lineup for 2023. Now known as Parachute Training Center, Edwards Air Force Base Jump Tower. After 40 seasons of operation, the 250-foot icon of the Great Adventure Skyline would finally be retired. 2023 would bring a brand new event to the park, Scream Break, a chain-wide initiative to capitalize on the popularity of Fright Fest, taking place during spring break to try to take advantage of the kids being out of school. Hurricane Harbor would have their biggest addition in over 20 years, Splash Island, a massive structure with 14 slides, 50 interactive features, and a 475-gallon tipping water bucket. This was Salim Basoul's second year as Six Flags CEO, and he made it clear that he did not want to add new coasters. He was taking the Mark Shapiro path of trying to appeal to families, so the optimism of a new thrill coaster being added to Great Adventure was waning, and people were hoping their 50th anniversary in 2024 would bring a signature new coaster. In the summer of 2023, their prayers were answered. The Flash Vertical Velocity would be the first of its kind in America. Built by Vekoma, this was introduced in 2023 at a park in China, starting with a multi-pass launch, 2 inversions, and a forward and backward section over a thin layout. Although this was announced in August, Six Flags CFO Gary Mick said the opportunity to buy the coaster came about late in the game, and they took advantage. Perhaps a new coaster was not the original plan given Salim Basoul's vision, but with attendance down 33% chain-wide in 2022, the plan may have been adjusted. Because of the late addition, land clearing started in January, tracks started arriving in February, and the ride went vertical in April. The Flash was not the only thing in the cards for 2024. The lion statue would make a comeback, a park original that was set up on the road coming to the park, removed after the 2006 season and now greeting guests as they enter the park. There would be a new brick pathway with the return of Dream Street, where guests could have them engraved with a custom message for $149.99. This way, they could leave their mark on Great Adventure forever. They would also repaint and give a new light package to the Big Wheel, now regaining its original name, Giant Wheel, and the Sawmill Log Flume was closed the prior year, undergoing a major refurbishment and set to open in the summer. Congo Rapids would also revert to its original name, Roaring Rapids. The Safari Off-Road Adventure would return after the drive-thru was closed in 2023, now having the option to board a shorter safari within the park, or a longer safari outside the park, being able to board the vehicles at an outpost outside the parking lot. Finally, the Savannah Sunset Resort and Spa would open with 20 glamping suites, supposed to resemble African lodges. These would be located in the middle of the safari, including a spa, fine dining restaurant, breakfast, and access to all the parks, the cost being about $600 per night and requiring at least a 2-night stay. El Toro also got a much welcomed addition: free, small, double-sided lockers at the end of the queue, allowing riders to stash their phones and keys right before getting on the ride, scanning their temporary card to retrieve their items on their way out. On July 1st, the biggest merger in amusement park history was complete. Six Flags and Cedar Fair finalized what they announced the prior November, many people skeptical about the deal going through, but alas, it was done. The new chain would be called the Six Flags Entertainment Corporation, Richard Zimmerman from Cedar Fair assuming the role as president, and Six Flags CEO Salim Basul being named executive chairman. The new super chain would have 27 amusement parks, 15 water parks, and 9 resort properties. On August 12th, the park confirmed what everyone expected. The Flash Vertical Velocity would be delayed to 2025, too much work having to be done before it was ready to open, and the park running out of the summer season to give it a proper opening. That brings us to the present day, 50 years since Werner Leroy's grand vision came to life. 5 rides remaining from that opening year: the Carousel, Giant Wheel, Sawmill Log Flume, the Sky Ride, and Runaway Mine Train. The coaster that has truly stood the test of time. The next oldest coaster in the park being Batman the Ride from 1993, and outlasting 13 other coasters that have come and gone from the park. Great Adventure has been through so much over the last half-century, thriving in the 70s and early 80s, almost destroying itself in the mid-80s. The great turnaround led by Ray Williams into the early 90s. The insane investment brought on by Premier Parks as part of their war on lines, setting the world height and speed record one year, and getting one of the best wooden coasters ever built the next. Seeing their parent company file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and the rebound from those depths into the 2010s, the pandemic of 2020, and here they are as strong as ever on their 50th anniversary under their brand new ownership. I have never lived close to Great Adventure. In fact, I was on the opposite side of the country for most of my life, but I have made the trip 6 times. The most recent one was this year to check out their 50th anniversary. Also, 2021, 2019, 2018, 2015, and my first trip was way back in 2008. Finally getting to visit this park I read so much about as a kid, and I will never forget my first ride on El Toro, immediately knowing that was the greatest coaster I'd ever ridden and it wasn't even close. Thank you so much for joining me on this trek over the past 50 years, and special thanks to Harry Applegate and everyone involved in GreatAdventureHistory.com for making this project possible. As I was getting ready to start this project last November, I exchanged a few emails with Harry and he was gracious enough to give me access to the site's content. That was absolutely vital to illustrate the early years of the park. Harry passed away in January, so he wasn't able to see the 50th anniversary celebration, but Great Adventure put up a dedication poster just for him, that being right alongside Six Flags founder Angus Wynn and Great Adventure founder Werner Leroy. Great Adventure's biggest fan has his place in the park, and this episode is dedicated to him. If you enjoyed this documentary, please drop a like and share it with whoever may be interested. These full-length projects take at least 6 months of work from start to finish, so I appreciate the support. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you for the next big project in 2025.